Онцлогтой нүүдэлчид бэлчээр нутгийн экосистемийн тэнцвэрт нэгдмэл байдлыг хамгаалахын төлөө ажиллаж байна.
10 цагаас 1 цаг хүртэлх 3 цагийн шууд хөтөлбөрийг та бүхэнд хүрэхэд бэлэн боллоо. Энэ удаа бид нэр Швейцарын хөгжлийн агентлагийн ногоолт малын эрүүл мэндийн төслийн үр дүнгээс та бүхэнд хүргэх болно. Энэ төсөл 2000 оны ихээр манай улсад 2-3 жил дараалан 100 болж байхад малчид хүнд нөхцөлд орсон тэр үед хүмүүнлэгийн тусламжаар эхэлж байсан Яванда бэлчээрийн менежментийг сайжруулах, малчдыг нэгдэн оршоолох, хадгалан зүйлийн оршоог дэмжих, түүхэн эдийн оршоог дэмжих зэргээр 18 аймгийн 90,000 гаруй малчныг өдгөө хамарсан ийм төсөл байгаамаа. Энэ төслийн үр дүнгээс бид та бүхэнд хүрэх болно. За энэ төслийг дэмжиж Ас хол Америкийн нэгдсэн улсаас хүү амтлаг бидэнд мэдлэгээ ирүүлсэн байна. Энэ мэдлэгийг та бүхэнд эхлээд хүргье.
Сайн байна уу? Хүү амтлаг Америкийн төрөө хийгээд явж байна. Та бүхэнд Америкийн нэгдсэн улсаас нэг шиг байна.
За Монгол улсад суугаа Швейцарын хөгжлийн агентлагийн ногоолт малын эрүүл мэндийн төсөл Монгол хэрэгжээд 17 жил гаруй болж байна. Энэ хугацаанд Монголын нийт газар нутгийн 80% эзэлдэг энэ бэлчээр нутгийг сайжруулах, зөв зүйтэй ашиглах, түн дээр байгаа малчдын аж амьдралыг дэвшүүлэх тал дээр маш их зүйл хийж байгааг бид бүхэн хараад маш баяртай байдаг.
Хүү амтлаг маань Монголын үн соёл болон энэ нүүдэлчдийн хуу соёлыг дэлхийд дахин түгээж байгаа. Тийм учраас энэ Монгол нүүдэлчид энэ бэлчээр нутгийг хамгаалж байгаа энэ төслийг бид бүхэн маш их дэмжиж байгаа байлаа.
За ногоолт төсөл маань бол маш их таалагдсан. Яагаад таалагдсан бэ гэхээр Монголд бол малчин аж ахуй амьдрал бол бэлчээрийн асуудал, бэлчээрийн даацх гэсэн тэрийг зөв бодлолт нь оруулж малын тоо биш чанарт нь анхаарч малчтай аж ахуй амьдралыг сайжруулахад маш хөвгөө нэмэр болсон тийм төсөл юм билээ. Тэр маш их таалагдсан.
Тэгээд ногоолт төсөлд гар бие оролцож байгаа бүх хүмүүстэй Монголынхаа ард түмний нэрийн өмнөөс хүү ардлын нэрийн өмнөөс маш их баярлаж талцсан хэлье.
За хүү амтлагтай баярлалаа. Уран бүтээлийн өндөр амжилт хүсье. Одоо та бүхэнд манай захимаар холбогдож байгаа хүмүүс байгаа. Энд өнөөдөр хүнс хөдөө аж ахуйн хөнгөн үйлдвэрийн сайд, мөн улсын хурлын гишүүн, за Швейцарын хөгжлийн агентлагийн бие төлөөлөгчид, элчин сайд, за мөн энэ ногоолт малын эрүүл мэндийн төслийн баг хамт олон бидэнтэй зүүмээр холбогдож захимаар мэдлэгээд хүргэх болно. За эхлээд та бүхэнд хүнс хөдөө аж ахуйн хөнгөн үйлдвэрийн сайд мэд сайхны мэдлэгийг хүргье.
Монгол улсын их хурлын гишүүн эрхэм гишүүн Тэмүүлэн, Швейцарын холбооны улсаас Монгол улс суугаа элчин сайд хүндэт Бернардино Регацоны, Швейцарын хамтын ажиллагааны дарга Стефан Бури болон энэхүү арга хэмжээнд оролцож байгаа зоч төлөөлөгч та бүхэнд энэ өдрийн мэндийг хүргье. Швейцарын хөгжлийн агентлагийн ногоолт малын эрүүл мэндийн төсөл 17 жилийн турш амжилтаа хэрэгжиж өнөөдөр олон нийтэд үр дүнгээ танилцуулж хаалтын арга хэмжээгээ зохион байгуулж байна. Ногоолт малын эрүүл мэндийн төсөл нь 2004-өөс 2021 онуудад нийт 4 үе шатаар хэрэгжсэн бөгөөд анх 2000 оны их зуудын үеэр Швейцарын засгийн газраас Монгол малчдад үзүүлсэн хүмүүнлэгийн тусламжаас улбалан бэлчээрийн нөөцийн зохистой менежмент малын эрүүл мэндийн салбарын хөгжлийг дэмжих зорилгоор хэрэгжиж эхэлсэн. Өнгөрсөн 17 жилийн хугацаанд уг төслийн хүрээнд бэлчээрийн зүй зохистой ашиглалтыг дэмжих, дээрх чиглэлийн үндэсний байгууллага, боловсон хүчний чадварыг хөгжүүлэх зорилгоор малчны хот, орон нутгийн төрийн байгууллагууд үндэсний хэмжээний эрдэм шинжилгээ судалгаа, бодлогын байгууллагуудтай хамтран олон төслүүдийг амжилттай хэрэгжүүлсэн юм а. Төслийн хүрээнд малчдыг дундын бэлчээр нутгийн хамтаараа зохион байгуулалтанд оруулж төлөвлөгөөтэй зүй зохистой ашиглах, бэлчээр ажилтны гэрээ байгуулах, хариуцлага хүлээх, оршоог хөгжүүлэх, бэхжүүлэх, зах зээлийн харилцаанд идэвхтэй оролцох, бэлчээрийн төлөв байдлын урт болон богино хугацааны мониторингийн сүлжээг олон улсын жижигтний зөвлөн хөгжүүлэх, мал эмнэлгийн салбарын хууль тогтоомжийг боловсронгуй болгох, малын гаралтай төв бүтээгдэхүүний захин мөшгөх систем болон мал эмнэлгийн нэгдсэн системийг хөгжүүлж нэвтрүүлэх зэрэг олон ажлуудыг амжилттай хэрэгжүүлсэн. Ногоон алтан малын эрүүл мэндийн төсөл Монгол улсын 156 суманд бэлчээрийг зүү зохистой ажиллах, бэлчээрийн төлөв байдлын өөрчлөлт хэрхэн явагддаг, бэлчээрийн тархалт оройтлоос урьдчилан сэргийлэх талаар малчтад мэдлэг болгож, малчид бэлчээр ажилтны гэрээ авснаар 20 гаруй сая бэлчээр нутгийг сэлгэж амрааж, доройтлоос хамгаалж чадсан байна. Ногоон алтан малын эрүүл мэндийн төсөл хүнс үдэ аж ахуй хөнгөн үйлдвэрийн яам, мал эмнэлгийн ерөнхий газартаа малын гаралтай төвх үед гарал үүсэл чанарын цахим системийг хөгжүүлэх ажил дээр хамтран ажиллаж, малын эрүүл мэндийн үйлчилгээ, мах сүү, ноос ноолуур, арьс шир зэрэг малын гаралтай бүх төрлийн бүтээгдэхүүнээр амжилттай туршин хэрэгжүүлж байна. Үүнээс гадна малын гаралтай төвх үеийн хариуцлагатай нүүдэлч аппликейшнийг хөгжүүлэн малчдад богино хугацаанд хэрэгцээтэй мэдээллийг шуурхай хүргэх боломжийг бүрдүүлж өгсөн. Ногоон алтан малын эрүүл мэндийн төслийн малчдын 3 талд хамтын байгууллагууд буюу малчдын бэлчээр ашиглалтын хэсгүүд, сум аймагуудын холбоод, малчдын түүхий борлуулалтын хоршоод, малчдын хадгалан зүйн хоршоодыг байгуулсан юм. Хүнс үдэ аж ахуй хөнгөн үйлдвэрийн яамнаас хүнс үдэ аж ахуйн салбарт хэрэгжиж байгаа төслүүдийн уялдаа холбоог хангах, өмнө хүрсэн үр дүнг цааш дахиулах, сайн туршлуудыг түгээн дэлгэрүүлэхэд анхаарал ажиллаж байна. Ногоон алтан малын эрүүл мэндийн төслийн хүрээнд дараах системүүдийг бид нар хөгжүүлсэн хамтран. Бэлчээрийн төлөв байдлын мониторингийн систем, мал эмнэлгийн нэгдсэн систем, хариуцлагатай нүүдэлчин малын гаралтай төвх үеийн гарал үүсэл чанарыг баталгаажуулан хянах, захин мөшгөх систем бөгөөд эдгээр системүүдийг цааш ажилтныг хангахад анхаарал хандуулж ажиллах болно. Эцэст нь Монголын малчдын хүнд хэцүү цаг үед тусалж цаашлаад Монголын мал аж ахуйн салбарын гол хүчин зүйлүүд болох бэлчээр, малын эрүүл мэнд, малын байгууллагын хөгжлийг шин шатнд гаргахад бидэнтэй хамтран ажилласан ногоон алтан малын эрүүл мэнд төслийн баг, Швейцарын хөгжлийн агентлагын талархал илэрхийлье. Та бүдийг ажил үйлс амжилт хүсье, анхаарал тавьсанд баярлалаа.
Thank you to Mr. Mensachan, the Minister of Food, Agriculture and Light Industry. Now from the Government House, from Parliament, Member of Parliament, Mr. Timuling will speak. For 17 years of the implementation of the Green Gold and Animal Health Project, there have been some achievements, including the ones on legislative arena. There were several laws adopted and amendments made to the laws, and many parliamentarians were helpful in making such progresses. And one of them is Mr. Timuling, who has been joining us in live way, and he will speak. And then he is now in the working group for developing and discussing the law on rangeland. Mr. Timuling, good morning. Yes, thank you. First of all, I would like to express my gratitude to all organizers of this meeting who allowed me to participate in this meeting, which is the virtual closing workshop of the Green Gold and Animal Health Project. We remember that 17 years back, the project got started, and then during those years, there have been a lot of improvements in Mongolian livestock sector. And for that purpose, I would like to express my gratitude and congratulations to the Swiss Development Agency for their sincere support. The project on green gold and animal health has been helpful, especially in improving the legislative framework for Mongolian agriculture livestock sector. For instance, the veterinary law has been adopted during this period. Also, the animal genetic reserve law was developed and adopted, and these were the improvement instruments for making the rangeland management to be further strengthened, and then providing better access to veterinary services to herders. And then also it was good for improving the livelihood of herders. Also, such laws were helpful for making the Mongolian animal originated products to go to the international markets, which is to strengthen the capacity of Mongolian livestock sector. This project has been helpful also for making Mongolian products to be exported in a bigger quantity. Also, it was good for better management of rangeland by herders themselves. One important thing I would like to mention is the investments made to the improvement of rangeland, and also the changes in the mentality and attitude of people. These days in Mongolian countryside, herders were able to get together in becoming the members of 1,600 pasture user groups. And this project has been helpful for improving the management methods for the use of the rangeland. And one of that instrument is the sustainable pasture use agreements, contracts that were made in 1,200 SUMs. Also, this project was helpful for identifying some good methods like imposing the livestock taxes, and then for improving the communication among the herders and others. This project has helped with development of useful experiences that has become already sustainable, especially on the rangeland. The project has been good in terms of being loud enough for mentioning what are the real challenges in Mongolian sector of livestock and rangeland use. So all those ideas would be helpful for us for developing some better laws and for developing policies that will be useful for Mongolian rangeland stakeholders. The project Green Gold and Animal Health has resulted with many outcome and improvements, and those improvements should be further sustained. And from my side, as being a legislator, I will do my best for the sustainability of those approaches. And I'm very happy to note that the project has been serving as a very useful development project in Mongolian agriculture sector. I would like to express gratitude to the team of the project, to the SDC. On behalf of myself and on behalf of the Parliament, I would like to express my gratitude. I would like to wish success to all of you. And I believe Mongolia soon will become a country with responsible herders norms and will be a country with good rangeland law. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Tumulen. Yes, indeed, we would like to become the country of responsible nomads and of good rangeland law. And then it is good that more than 1,200 SUMs have, in those places, we have such a law, such a contracts. Then now let me give floor to Ambassador Bernardino Regazzoni of Switzerland to Mongolia, who is located in Beijing. His video will be shown now.
Хүндэт төлөөлөгчид, ногоон алт малын эрүүл мэнд төслийн хүндэт хамтрагчид, эрхэм хүндэт нөхөд, хадагтай ноёдоо. Сүүлийн 17 жилийн хугацаанд Швейцар болон Монголын талууд ногоон алт малын эрүүл мэнд төслийн хүрээнд Монголын бэлчээрт доктортой менежментийг бий болгоход хувь нэмрээ оруулахаар түншлэн ажилласан билээ. Сайн сайхан бүхий л зүйлд төгсгөл байдгийн адилаар энэ төсөл маань одоо дуусгаар болж байна. Би өөрийн биеэр Монгол улсад зочилж энэхүү чухал мөчийг та бүхэнтэй тэмдэглэхийг хүсэж байсан ч цар дахлаас болж очих боломжгүй боллоо. Гисэн хэдий ч цахимаар дамжуулан өөрийн сэтгэгдэл болон талархлыг та бүхэнтэйгээ хуваалцахыг хүсэж байна. Манай хоёр улсын нийтлэг зүйлсийн нэг нь үзэгсэлэнт онгон дагшин байгаль юм. Байгалийн үзэгсэлэнт газруудыг түшиглэн орлогоолох эдийн засгийн үр ашгийг хүртэхийн зэрэгцээ.
The project is coming to end. I, of course, wanted to be present at this moment in Mongolia. However, due to the travel restrictions, I could not do that, but we are meeting through virtual channel. Our two countries have a lot of common things like the beautiful, pristine nature. And then also at the same time, we have some challenges about preserving our landscape and then using our land in sustainable way in the gaining some economic gains. Mongolia has a lot of many years of experience in nomadic livestock breeding. And then these years, we understand that ecosystem has been very fragile. And then livestock and wild animal have now in challenge in finding some good fodder, which is to come from rangeland. And this project has been helpful in making the traditional use of rangeland through natural regeneration. Together with herders and research institutions and government agencies, the Green Gold Project has been helping with the system of rangeland monitoring, also improving the capacity at all levels. As a result of this partnership, we can see some amazing results. Let me highlight 4 of those results. Mongolia has now become the country with the most advanced rangeland monitoring system, which covers the whole country with over 6,000 monitoring spots. And then at the land of administration in geodesy in Kartofriki, and also at the National Meteorological Institute and Agency, there have been some good management of this monitoring system. Also, more than 90,000 herding households have been now become the members of the pasture users groups. 12 provinces and 46 SUMs out of 330 SUMs, like Arkhangat, Zavkhan, they now have the rangeland management regulations contracts and agreements signed between the pasture users groups and the local government for responsible management of their rangeland. At the policy level, the animal health law and livestock number taxation law have been approved by the parliament with some special provisions to utilize the tax income locally for local development activities. That would make sure that herders will take part in the decisions on how to sustain the rangeland management. That effort would allow to do restoration of 20 million hectares of land in the past. Also, in order to improve the quality of the animal originated products, the Green Gold Project and government agencies have been actively cooperating in development of the standards on sustainable products, along with the traceability system. Herders will be able to earn better income through better products. This standard for sustainable production, which is called responsible nomads, has been receiving support by local and international stakeholders that showed that what capacity herders have in the future. As Ambassador of Switzerland to Mongolia, I feel proud of the achievements of our partnership. Our engagement made a difference. Okay, now Stephanie's. Distinguished guests, STC has been working closely with all the stakeholders. The STC has been working with National Herder Association, the ministries, universities, research centers on the improvement of the rangeland management in Mongolia and to support the income of herder families for better families and for sustainable and responsible herding. Mongolia is a beautiful country. The landscape is amazing, and nomadic culture and history of Mongolians are extremely rich. A year ago, I arrived to Mongolia to lead the STC agency in Mongolia. Several times, I had great opportunity to travel and learn more about your unique culture, especially about the daily lives of herder families. For me, it was a privilege to work with the project. on the sustainable land. And I'm glad that today we have been sharing our experiences, challenges, and lessons learned during the long journey. I love to do this event in countryside altogether, but COVID situation would not allow us to do that. But we have find a way to organize this meeting in such a virtual way. You will be able to hear from this meeting about the results of over 17 years of work. And these are results of many years of research. And also you can learn about some systemic changes in policy level. This process took a lot of time and energy. Everyone put his knowledge and skills for that. We learned together, and we're looking forward for further sustainability. I would like to congratulate everyone who made it possible. And this cooperation will also further last and will be done by involvement of women, men, local and international organizations, and Mongolian government. I wish you a very interesting event of today, and you can get a lot of inspiring ideas. Thank you. Thank you. Now, the team of the Green Gold and Animal Health Project will be joining us. Mr. Kang Hoyak, the Executive Director of the Rangeland Association. Also, Mr. Divangar, the Veterinary Officer of the project. Bulgama, Officer in charge of Rangeland and Manager of the project, Ms. Hamgalan, and the project monitoring and evaluation expert, Ms. Bayerma, and then also from the same project, Mr. Tiltman is participating. I would like to say that during the 17 years of work in all parts of the country, there have been a lot of activities conducted, but the team behind all those activities was not big. And now let us start with some stories. And first will be from the Rangeland herders home. With funding of the STC for 17 years, so we have been implementing the project Green Gold and Animal Health, and some results will be delivered to you. Together with us, we have Mr. Tiltman, Cooperatives and Finance Officer in Khamoklan, the manager of the project, and then the project veterinary officer, Mr. Devangar, and then the monitoring and evaluation expert, Ms. Bayerma. Also, Executive Director of the Rangeland Association, Mr. Kang Hoyak, and Bulgama, she is the Rangeland Officer, specialist at the project, and then Mr. Kansok, the Rural Development Officer of the project. We have been talking a lot about sustainable development, and what is sustainable development? It is about consuming the resources, but not compromising the needs of the future generation. So it is very relevant for Mongolian pastoral, especially how to bring to the next generation the land that we have in the conditions not worse than what we have now. So we need to do some actions for that purpose. Let me first hear from Ms. Inhamoglan, the project manager. The STC Green Gold and Animal Health Project has a main purpose of making contribution to the sustainability of Mongolian livestock sector, especially of the livelihood of herders and management of rangeland. There should be health conditions at both rangeland and at animal level. In this case, we will have the good valuable products out of the rangeland. In recent 17 years of the project operation, we have been closely working with herders, with the ministry, with the local authority and the research community about how to disseminate good practices on rangeland use, especially in terms of making some further better standards for sustainable use of rangeland. And those ideas have been disseminated all over the country, and the name of the standard is responsible nomads. This is very important because Mongolian animal originated products need to be differentiated from the other countries' products, and we need to be more able to compete with others. What is the most important for the rangeland? As being an expert in rangeland, would you like to talk? Yes, for sustainable livestock, and we need to have sustainable and productive rangeland, because rangeland is the main resource for agriculture sector. And then also the air that we breathe, the water that we consume, all would depend on the health situation of the rangeland. And then for making the productivity of the rangeland, we need to do better diagnosis about what is happening, also to define properly the reserves in order to exploit them in a more sustainable way. And then during those 17 years, we have been working on improvement of capacity at local area, also at national level. For instance, the methodology of diagnostics have been made nationwide. Also, we have the database reference level. We now know better what we mean by land degradation, where the most degraded areas and what activities can be taken for restoration, etc. Also, for the recovery of land, the natural rejuvenation capacity has been identified as being important factor, and Mongolian land was put into the 22 categories of its capacity for restoration. And now we have database and the methodology. The monitoring work is done, should be done properly, and then we need to define, we need to do the modeling of how the restoration can happen. This is the scientific method that could be applied successfully in the practical reality by herders in making their plans. If we look to 2020 statistics, 90 million hectare of land has been covered under our monitoring system. 44 million hectare of land has been in its natural conditions, and then also some hectares of land have been improved and reaching the level of what it was before the degradation. And then based on the capacity of regeneration, we have now some 30 model SUMs where they have some program being implemented for the regeneration of land. There is a principle like half of the grass on the land can be eaten, but half should be staying there in order to keep the regeneration capacity to be high. So in our country, we need to do better modeling on the rotation of rangeland, on the proper number of livestock for use in the rangeland, etc. At this moment, we have now two major network of monitoring. One is at the Geodesy and the Land Administration Authority, which is to make better plan for the use of land. Also, this network of monitoring is helpful for defining the areas where we need to do some activities under our responsible nomads program. Also, for making the animal originated products to be of better quality for certification and verification purpose, we can use the results of the monitoring network.
Хичээрийн дац хэд дахин хэвчээд байгаа гэж байна.
what is the situation with the overgrazing? And when there is an overgrazing of rangeland, what should we do for better management of livestock? Also, veterinary health of livestock, how should we manage it? Yes, the veterinary health of the in the country can be identified by the activities how government and others have been doing for improving the value of the animal originated products. Unfortunately, the animal originated products export will be less than 10% of Mongolia's export. So it means that there are a lot of things that we can do for improving the situation in our veterinary health sector. And then for supporting the businesses by herders, we can do some actions that will be useful for bringing their products to international market, like improving the laws standards. The international trade has been quite active, and then the new challenges have been also appearing for veterinary sector because of that mobility and the globalization. Also, for making the veterinary services to do better work, there should be some good way of bringing the international best standards and practices to Mongolian laws and regulations. So as a result of this work on improvement of laws and procedures, we now have better terms of reference or the better responsibility division among the institutions who have been instrumental in animal health. Also, for better export of animal products, we need to, besides improving the law, we need to do better institutionalization of the functions. So for that purpose, the integrated veterinary system an internet system has been made that would allow the local IMA governor's office and local veterinary service departments to be linked together. And also it would help the users of the animal products to be sure that about the origin of the product, about the status of the products. Also, the consumers will be able to know the history of the product, where it came from and how it was transported. Also, based on the database that was established, we can make sure that the areas free of disease can be verified. There is no brucellosis in Umgobi. There is such efforts for making Umgobi to have no tuberculosis, Silingaimak to have no cow diseases. So consumers in this case can be confident that the products from those IMAX will be free of disease and will be safe. And that is a good support for herders who are to gain the main benefit from their work. Then the World Animal Health Organization made assessment about Mongolian activities, and then there were regular of such assessments in 2007, 2019. 2019 assessment of the international organization showed that Mongolian veterinary service has made a lot of progresses and improvements. And this is probably one of the result of the work done by this project, Green Gold and Animal Health, because we try to contribute to the overall improvement of veterinary health in Mongolia. In recent years, we have been talking about comfort to be created for livestock, and what do we mean for that, and what are criteria. The herders are to be able to protect the rangeland, also protect the livestock, make the conditions for livestock to be fat and productive, and then the livestock which is in the natural rangeland will have some specific features in its products, and for that purpose, comfort of animal can be considered as one important criteria. And then for that purpose, we have been defining some good conditions, criteria, so what we mean by comfort of livestock in Mongolian case. For Mongolian herders would understand that that will be, for instance, the conditions where there is no animal disease, there is no big problem with natural disaster. And then we understand that when we talk about recent years situation with the rangeland conditions for animal, there are supposed to be some standards applied. For instance, in terms of how much fodder should be prepared by herders for their animal, and then also no less than 300 days animal supposed to be on natural rangeland, etc. Also, supply of water to rangeland is one of the criteria for making the comfortability of herd to be made. And also quality of water. It should not be too salty. And then the water should be fresh enough in order to make the livestock to be of being fit. Also, because of low access to water, the livestock will be in a problematic conditions, especially in terms of comfort. So herders themselves can do something for the comfort of livestock, especially by improving access to water. Also, herders need to think about choosing and selecting better areas for grazing in all 4 seasons of the year, and then to prepare to build some sheds and fences and other facilities for protecting them from weather conditions.
Бичрийн мал аж ахуй гэдэг чинь өөр онцлогтой шүү дээ. Бид өөрөө
The rangeland-based nomadic animal husbandry has its own specific features, but at the same time, we should be responsible in doing the grazing. What should we do? It is not easy to do the recovery of the land which has been degraded significantly. So we need to think about preventing the degradation of land before some problems would occur. And then we have, of course, some traditional methods of rangeland use, but some of the good traditional methods have been lost. For instance, having the distinct areas for grazing in summertime, in wintertime, in autumn or spring. That habit has been lost. In some places there are herders who have been residing in the same place for the whole year, or just moving just twice a year instead of moving 4 times, etc. So herders are supposed to sit together and discuss with their colleagues or the other herders about what they can do for the sustainable use of the rangeland, about how to do the movements, about what land to be used by whom. For that purpose, the project has been helping herders to become able to work together. The herders who have been sharing the same land have been now more organized into the pasture user groups. In 18 IMACs, 108 SUMs, 80 SUMs, we have the pasture user groups established. You can see now that in Arkhanga IMAC, they have 240 of such pasture users groups of herders who made agreements with local SUM governors. And then more than 170 of those user groups have been providing input in their information to the database. And then to the database of cadastre at Mongolian government land administration. And then you see that 90,000 herding families have already joined to those user groups. If we look to the herders who are in the groups, they are from different places of the country, but the common things would be, of course, they are sharing the land with their neighbors, with their other herders, and then, of course, members number of livestock per household will be different. And then we can see that in one pasture land user group, usually 25,000 heads of livestock will be there. Also, another thing connected to the rangeland use, the common use of land, is that the herders now can become a party of the agreement with local government for using for longer time the land. 1,200 of pasture user groups already made such agreements with their local government. And about 1,000 of those groups information have been already inputted into the database, land database, which is at the Geodesy and Cartography Agency. Getting their information to be put into the database would be a verification, validation of their traditional right to use the land. Also, for better implementation of the rangeland sustainable use plan, there will be a need to spend some money, resources, and do investment. But herders have been in a shortage of having resources to be spent on improvement of rangeland. And then the approval of the law of last year, which is on the taxes to be imposed on the livestock, will be a useful opportunity because it will give the money to be used on improvement of rangeland. There were some surveys done before the law approved, and which showed that more than 90% of respondents were supportive for the idea of imposing such a tax on livestock. And then once we have already those groups, PUGs established, we need to make them to be close to each other, to make them to be more capable. There was a need to establish the NGO for the integrated rangeland sustainable use. And now we have the IMAC level, Association of Pasture User Groups, and the national level. Establishment of such user groups and associations will be useful for making the work of user groups to be more organized, also for serving as a bridge between herder groups and the government. Such association work will be useful. With establishment of the pasture user groups, we can see some chronicles. For instance, in the first there were 7 IMACs with PUGs, and then 4 IMACs, and then they remain in the new IMACs. And so capacity building activity has been done in all over the country for the members of the PUGs. Now you can see that from year to year, the number of the PUGs has been increasing. It's already 1,600 these days. In the recent 4 or 5 years, we have been working with 80,000 herding families about providing them some advice and training and some practical guidelines. And then for the better implementation of the pasture use agreements, 7.1 billion tugrik financial support has been provided, channeled to them from different sources. Also, for 5 million hectares of land, the rehabilitation work has happened with involvement of the project. This is how to improve the income of herders, whether to improve the quality of products, whether to support cooperatives, Could you describe on that? The project has been closely working with the pasture user group members. And then we have now 76 cooperatives established with participation of those user groups. And those cooperatives are to make sure that the value, the quality of the animal products could be improved, and also the livelihood income of herders to be increased. And those cooperatives have been working actively in making the products to be promoted among the potential buyers, also for making the cooperatives to be capable enough. The project has been supporting them for during all 17 years. For improving the quality of animal originated products, for strengthening the capacity of herders, cooperatives, there have been a lot of technical capacity building activities, training, like developing business plan, like developing some plans for doing the infrastructure, like the shared warehouses, the shared procurement process, etc. And that would make the herders to be responsible and capable. You can see from here the result of the work by cooperatives. For instance, the number of members in the cooperatives has been increasing significantly, and then the dividends being paid to members. Also, the number of partners like the processing factories has been increasing for the cooperatives. Cooperatives, for instance, are working with improving the technology of processing of yak wool and sheep wool and camel wool. And then that would increase the income of herding families from those products. You can see how much of wool from yak and from camel has been coming from those cooperatives to the market. That would show us that for some products, up to 50% of the products of certain products produced in the country would be coming from those cooperatives. Also, a lot of training has been done together with the processing factories targeted to herders. That would enable the herding cooperatives to have good connection with the processing factories. And they now being reliable partners, suppliers of raw materials to those companies. The project has been implemented for 17 years and especially worked on rangeland. Why you decided to support the credit unions by herders? Well, the beginning of our work in that area has been quite interesting because there were many years, subsequent years of harsh winter, Zut. And then after Zut, herders will be in a difficult situation in terms of using the money for rehabilitation of their facilities. And for that purpose, they made their own initiative to collect their money into the revolving fund and then to use that money in case of emergency by members, also for the funding of the activities that will be useful for all members of the pasture user groups, etc. So this fund, savings revolving fund, has been quite a useful instrument because it is of less bureaucracy and to be utilized in a simple way. From project side, we did the matching fund contribution. When we have now such involvement of the project, we can see that the fund size has increased significantly. we started with 4 high marks, and then now we have almost all high marks involved in the process. And so this saving fund has been further utilized and improved by herders' decisions, and that also enabled them to make some investment out of this by using the money. And now more number of herders became the group of the savings groups, and that has been helpful for them to learn about how to become more economically literate, to know more about finances, and also the next stage of their work from revolving fund was to establish the savings and credit unions, cooperatives, and we helped with the institutionalization of several of those funds. Now, some of them have been at the level of working as a small credit company. And then now those funds would further need to be strengthened. Internationally, such credit and savings cooperatives experiences have been quite well developed. They are using the online software. They have been serving to their members in more sophisticated way. So in our country, why not to have the progress in the savings fund in order to make to help them to become capable. Okay. The nomadic livestock sector can be more environmentally friendly compared to other ways of animal husbandry. So in our country, when we have this rangeland-based, pasture-based animal husbandry system, we can make sure that the responsible use of the rangeland by herders will be suitable and helpful for preserving the pristine nature of the country. We have thousands of species of plants that are available in Mongolian rangeland, and herders themselves should do something for preservation of such resources. Also, we have wildlife like argali, yangir, and other rare species of animal, which are in the Red Book. Also, we have 440 species of birds, and then 66 species of fish in the rivers and lakes in Mongolian countryside. And then you can see that when we talk about rangeland, it's not about just land. It is about the water there, it's about the wildlife, it's about the plants. And so herders should be accountable for all of those elements of the ecosystem. And then how herders can be environmentally friendly, we can use some system of criteria assessment. For instance, what is the whether the wildlife and plants number has been changed or not. If the number got decreased, that would mean that the IMAC and the herding families there should pay more attention on the preservation of nature. Also, we can look to the situation where there are some harsh winter. In this case, why not herders will be able to provide some food and do some actions for preserving the conditions for living of such animal. Also, the consumers, the buyers of the animal originated products need to know that their purchase would enable herders to use the money for the not only for own livelihood but also for sustainable preservation of the natural resources there.
Хариуцлагатай малчин гэж хэнийг хэлээд байна вэ?
whom we call as responsible herder. These are people, herders, who are working in a sustainable rangeland by using sustainable land use methods and by having animal in comfort conditions. And then such herders should be able to do some adaptation to the climate change and also to take care of their economic livelihood by improving their methods of doing their animal husbandry. So 17 years of the work by the project has been dedicated for making the herders to become sustainable nomads. We from Mongolia can bring to international markets some products, but it is not easy because international market is very competitive. We can compete with cheaper price or good quality. Usually the countries with cheaper price have a cheap labor force, and then they have a lot of resources, reserves of the raw materials, and then they have been doing very aggressive marketing. Those countries are quite competitive with their low price. But what is for us left? We are to compete with good quality of the products rather than the cheap products, and then we can do some activities about improving the access to international better markets of the Mongolian products. So the good standards of responsible nomads is helpful for making the process to be done properly. Responsible nomads standard.
Ээж энэ ямар гоё дүүс юм бэ?
Хөөх нэрээ тийм байна. Зөөлх нь бас гоё юм а. Энэ оролтыг сарлагын туглын хөөврөөр хийсэн гэж бичсэн байна. Энд QR код байна. Ухаалаг гар утасны камераа ашиглаад QR кодын цаанд байгаа мэдээллийг уншиж болно. Хариуцлагатай нүүдэлчний стандарт Монголын нүүдлийн мал аж ахуйн гадалтай бүтээгдэхүүн жишээ нь ноолуур, сарлагын хөвөр, тэмээний ноос, ханы ноос зэрэг бүтээгдэхүүний доктортой байдлыг хэмжиж тогтоодог. Хариуцлагатай нүүдэлчний стандартаар баталгаажсан бүтээгдэхүүний түүхий эдийг бэлтгэсэн малчид эрүүл бэлчээртэй, эрүүл малтай, малынхаа тавлаг байдлыг хангасан, мал нь тарга твэрхтэй, хүрээлэн байгаа байгаль орчноо хайрлан хамгаалдаг тийм хариуцлагатай үйлдвэрлэлийг эрхлэж гисэн үг. Монгол улс сарлагын тоо толгоогоор дэлхийд 2 дугаар байранд ордог. Монгол улс 1 сая сарлагтай. Монгол сарлагын 70% нь хангаан нуруунд, 30% нь алтай, хинтийн нуруунд амьдардаг. Монгол улс 260 тонн самсан сарлагын хөвөр үйлдвэрлэх боломжтой юм байна. Үүний 90 гаруй тонн нь 1-3 настай сарлагын туглын хөвөр юм байна. Өвөл дөөсч дулаан уйдрал эхлэхээр сарлаг байгалийн жамаараа өсноосоо хөнгөлж буужуулдаг. Энэ үед нь малчид сарлагын сахлаг өсний доор ургадаг нарийн ноосыг нь өвтгөхгүйгээр зөөлхөн самнаж авна. Хөврийг самнаж авсны дараа малчид тусгай зориултын үүдэнд өнгө чанараар нь ялган хийдэг. Зориултын бус синтетик материалаар хийсэн үүдэнд хийвэл синтетик утас тасар нь хөөртэй утгагдаж бохирдуулах эрсдэлтэй. Маш зөөлөн, дулаахан, эдлэгээ даадаг сарлагын хөврөн хувцас гэр ахуйн бараад энэ ховор түүхий эдийн онцлог чанар, үн цэнийг мэддэг хэрэглэгчдэд зориулан үйлдвэрлэдэг.
Монгол орны бэлчээрийн үндэсний 4-р форм ногоон алт малын эрүүл мэнд төслийн
The fourth National Rangeland Forum, 17 years of legacy of the project on animal health and green gold, 17 years of work for improving the herders' livelihood and rangeland sustainability. Okay, we have been continuing with our meeting. Who can be considered as responsible nomads? Probably you have heard from those that previous video, that what are the main specific features of being the responsible nomad, and what can be done for improving the conditions of rangeland. A lot of good stories we can show you further. Stories from the field, especially about one story of herder who has been doing well for reserving the rangeland. The rangeland is a limited resource, and then for such a limited resource to be utilized properly, there are a lot of efforts need to be done. I am from Ihtemsum of Arhangaimak. I am a herder. My name is Ihbayar. Under the project, there have been established pasture user groups, and now we, as being members of the pasture users groups, we can do some good plans about using the land in more sustainable, organized way. Also, it was helpful for selling our animal products at better prices. Here is the land which is being used for winter purposes. We never come to this place in summer and autumn because this place needs to be better preserved and be better productive enough for overcoming the winter. And then in this place, there are a lot of diverse species of plants, and keeping such diversity would make sure that the productivity of land will be high, the grasses will be high, and for that purpose, we need to do some preservation and protection of this land. As of June 1st, we are supposed to move from here in order to keep it better. And then after the beginning of November, we will come back to this place. And then in winter time, when it is harsh weather conditions, this place will still remain quite good in terms of keeping the plants. In the past, there were many of the diverse wildlife and plant, and we are trying our best for keeping that number to be sustainable. And we think that even for some species of livestock, of animal, their number got increased. This is because we have been able to overcome the challenge of illegal hunting. And now in some of the areas, there are even some improvements compared to the past. And then also we try to make this 20,000 hectare of land for our winter and spring grazing to be fresh and productive enough. We, of course, do some haymaking. And then it is very rare to have such abundant land like this one. Also, this place is being used for doing some haymaking by herders of the neighboring homes as well. This is probably one of the few areas which still keeps the pristine conditions. After doing haymaking from here, the remaining plants will be used for grazing of some offsprings, young animals. Also, in May, when the price for meat is expensive, we will slaughter our animal and sell on the market, because during being on this grazeland would make them to be quite okay in terms of the weight. In May usually the livestock weight is the smallest, and the price for meat is the highest. But in our case, the animal will be almost of the same weight as they were in October. This is because although the plant is not abundant, but it will still keep some good quality. That's why the animal will be fat enough, because they use such a productive plant. Keeping them to be fed with such good quality vegetation would make the animal to be productive enough. We would feed for 45 days the cows for slaughtering them in May. And our land has been very productive because we do some good protection of this land. Okay, so we have heard the story of Mr. Ingbayar, a herder, and he said that he lives in a place where there is a very unique feature. And he also talked about the user groups, cooperatives. This is because none of the single family of herder can do this work. Only becoming the members of the user groups and cooperatives, people can do better preservation of land and make the income from the animal to be at maximum. Because the better pasture would make the animal cows to become fat, and so herders will gain more income if the animal is better taken care. And then for keeping the rangeland to be such productive, it is necessary that the users groups will be established and operating in such an organized way. Joint efforts would lead the rangeland to be improved. Every quarter, we organize some meetings of members of the pasture user groups, and then also we share our experiences. Such meetings are very useful because we will get more informed. In the past, the families had no any schedule about who is to move where. But now when we are in the same group, we can do very organized way of movement. And also we have no conflict about whose animal is eating whose land. So there is no such problem. Also, the weed will be reduced if we do some better preservation of the rangeland. The health conditions of rangeland has been improving. It's like improving immunization of land. In recent 5 years, we have been delivering to the market on annual basis 4 or 5 of our yak cattle. Also, every year we eat 2 of yak for our own consumption. And then I have a plan to make the number of yak to reach 200 by considering the capacity of land. In my family, we have less number of sheep and goat, but also for sheep and goat, we have some plan about keeping their number to be at optimal level. We're not to increase too much of the livestock number because the grazing capacity is limited. We made some activities of reducing the number of livestock and keeping the cows that are good for dairy purposes. We have around 500 livestock, and 100 of them have been slaughtered every year. Most of our animals would be sheep. And then we have a plan to increase the number of our sheep and cow, not goat, because sheep and cow would be better for rangeland. Also, we have a risk fund established by herders. In our family, we had 400 livestock, and we paid 20,000 tugrik to that fund.
Хүндрэл учрахгүй үнэхээр ингээд эрсдлийн сангаан байгуулад
20,000 tugrik premium for that risk fund by a family of 400 herds and heads of herds is not a problem. So we need to establish such risk fund. Having a scheduled, better organized move by herders has been really useful for keeping the livestock to be of better quality. This year, we witnessed that the plant has been extremely good because we made this land to be rested for the previous year. So such a resting of land, rotated use of land was helpful for making the grass, the plants to be of better quality. The height of grass has been significantly better. Also, we can see that diversity of plants has increased. We have now more diverse composition of vegetation in our area. Also, the productivity per unit of land has improved. Here you can see some plants that are quite new for this place. They were not in the previous years. Also, we can see that some herbs, some useful plants amount has much increased this year. The savings fund was very useful for herders. Herders now know better about for what purpose the money can be taken from such a fund, the loan can be taken. For instance, for doing haymaking. Also in winter time, herders, if they want to buy some feed for animal, they can take the loan from the fund. And then such a cooperative credit union, a decision is made by the herders themselves as a group decision. And then there is a contract has been made. And all this work is based on the trust among the herders. 10 herding families would group together for becoming the pasture user group members. And that was the beginning of our user group process. In recent 5 years, those 10 families have been quite successful in making their hay on time. Also, beside the initial 10 families, 15 more families joined to the group. So there's such a collective work by herders would lead to the improvement in the livelihood of herding families. The problem these days is with the overgrazing of rangeland, and then being in the user groups is helpful for preserving the nature, especially in terms of using in the land in winter, in springtime, and then for preserving the pasture land in summer and autumn time by doing the fences and by protecting the land for reserve has been quite helpful. So it was very useful practice. This is the area of land which is called Cold Spring. And this is an area of more than 5 hectares where we made sowing, we did planting of certain fodder useful fodder. We realized, we understood that the planting for the crop can be a useful way of making the animal to be fed with some productive plant at the time when they need it. With support of the Green Gold project, we have now established this warehouse, joint warehouse, where we can keep quite significant amount of grass, of hay. This is a hay warehouse, which is the common joint result of our work. Since we did it ourselves, we would like also to benefit from this collective approach. Since it is good for all of us, we would spend our money on that. We did not know, in the past, we did not know that we can do something on our own. We were just waiting others to help us, but now it is different.
Бэлчээрийн хамгаалахын журам цаашлаа цаасан даруугаад ирэхээр хуулийн баримт хийж
байгаа. The preservation of rangeland can be also regulated by the law. And so there have been also activities on improving the legislative framework for rangeland. Agreements on the sustainable use of land has been giving a lot of useful results. We organize park-level meetings of herders where we talk about the use of rangeland, how to use the land in a better way. And then the agreement is being formally made and signed by the local governor. At the beginning, herders had some difficulty in understanding why such agreement is useful. So we explained them that now you will have better rights, stronger right to use the land if it is based on the agreement. And also agreement will give you opportunity to do something for improving the rangeland. You will be accountable for the use of rangeland, for the freshness of the rangeland, for keeping the land to be safe, also to use in what seasons, how to use the land. You will have such a plan. So the agreement has now become a traditional instrument. In 2017, our pasture user group agreement has been identified as the best agreement, model agreement. And then we can now see some good results of that, of having such a good practice of doing the agreement. In this area, we have in the land that has been abandoned after some illegal mining activities. So herders got together for making the land to be protected from illegal mining activities. The Green Gold project and the government have helped us to make the land to be preserved. And then now, as a result of that, we have no mining ongoing activities in our land. Also, our people have seen that the rehabilitation of land can be done if people will do some actions. We have now 69 areas which got degraded because of illegal mining activities, and one by one we are trying to rehabilitate such a place. We have agreements with the local government about doing the monitoring, photo monitoring of our area. Also, the We do in December the meetings, public meetings, where we discuss the results of the photo monitoring by herders groups. The number of livestock has been decreasing, and because of that, the overgrazing is a problem. But at the same time, there is no good income from animal. And so we need to think about how to improve our income. If we can keep the number of animal to be the same, but to sell the animal on time, then our income will be stable. But if the animal number is not being controlled, then the increased livestock number would lead to the degradation of land. So we have a plan being used about to keeping the number of livestock in a balanced way. In our plan, it says how many heads of sheep, how many goats, how many cows should be in our family, and then the excessive number of livestock can be slaughtered. But because of many families are using growing the goat for cashmere purpose, that would make the soil to be ruined. In some places, the degradation of land is really catastrophic because they have dominance of goats among their herd. We can make the herd number to be controlled, under control, but can give some good income. I used to have almost 1,000 heads of livestock in the past, but now I have 200, 300. But in terms of the income, I have even better income now. And also in terms of being worried about where to move, what land to use, I have now less burden. So such as useful number, optimal number of livestock made my life to be easier. Also, for making the rangelands to be used in sustainable way, the way of doing the agreement is very helpful. The pasture user groups, together with the local government, would make agreement on the use of land in most proper way. And then now we have also some challenge with the land that has been allocated for mining activities, for mining exploration activities. If herders will become more knowledgeable about the proper use of the instrument, like sustainable agreements of the use of rangeland, then it is helpful. In our area, the number of herders, pasture user groups has been increasing. You can see how herders have been getting together for such user groups. Also, starting from July last year, we have the law adopted about the taxes imposed on the livestock. The story is from Ofsaimak. In Ofsaimak, the grazing capacity of land has been exceeded more than twice. In some SOMs, the grazing capacity was exceeded by 4 times, 6 times. So you see that in overall, the overgrazing has been a problem for the SOMs in Ofsaimak. So we need to do something for improving the use of land. Otherwise, we will not be able to have the future of animal husbandry how it was before in our country, because in our IMAC, because there will be no productive land. So for proper use of land, there have been a lot of useful activities, programs going on For instance, for making herders to be better organized, the Green Gold Animal Health Project had helped them to get into the groups of users. And they started with from BAG level to SUM level to IMAC level, and now at nationwide level, there are such pasture user groups, association of pasture user groups at IMAC level, at SUM level, and then integrated rangeland association of rangeland users. And then in terms of having the use of rangeland to be in a sustainable way, there is supposed to be done some good plans, and for such a sustainable use of land, institutionalization of the herders groups has been very essential way. We in the past used to say the livestock legs tax, but now we refused by using the leg tax. We call it livestock head tax. And then in terms of what will be the tax per animal, there have been some discussions about whether the families with more number of herd supposed to pay more per head of livestock, or it should be the same. And then we agreed that this is the tax to be paid by herder depending on the number of livestock. So each head of livestock should be taxed regardless whether that family has big number of herd or they have few number of animal. So per head of animal, there will be the same tax. Some people would suggest that the families with less than 200 heads of livestock will be exempt from tax. In this case, the families can become small families with less than 200 heads of livestock. So it should be the fair principle. One head of livestock will be the same tax imposed. From previous year, we have been implementing the law on the livestock tax, and I think that was very useful and good decision. For families with big number of livestock, like 1,000, then they're supposed to pay like 1 million tobrik a year. The family with 1,000 livestock will have no problem of paying 1 million as a tax. That will not deteriorate their income because they have that big number of livestock. Also, as being herder, we think that the tax should be there. Otherwise, without the tax, there can be even further negative results. For instance, there are cases when some people want to become famous because of their big number of livestock, or those who would like to take loan as backing up the animal. In this case, they would artificially increase the number of livestock, but imposing such a tax would make it to be just and fair. In our SUM, we have been witnessing that the land has been degraded quite significantly. And then the diversity of plants on the rangeland has been of decrease these days. And so imposing such a tax on livestock would be quite helpful. For instance, the tax system should be developed by doing some regulation documents, some procedure documents, and we got some feedback ideas from 500 herding families, asking them what they think about this tax. None of the respondents of that survey say that tax is not needed. All of them were supportive for such a tax. And then there were some feedback about how many, what will be the per head of livestock fee, that tax. The tax will be different for cattle, for sheep, for goat. And then the families of less than 100 heads of livestock was decided at the SUM level meeting to be exempt from taxes. That will be around 800 families exempt from taxes. But we think that why not that such exemption will be lifted out in the future.
Швейцарын хөгжлийн агентлаг, Монголын бэлчээр ашиглагчдын нэгдсэн холбоо хамтран ивент идэв.
Now tea break with dance.
Сүслэн мөргөж аргадамгүй. Дээдлэн мөргөж аргадамгүй.
хөтөлбөр студиэс үргэлжилж
Okay,
байна.
we can now continue. So you have seen the dance, traditional Bilge dance, and nomadic culture would give us a lot of useful, precious experiences that need to be preserved in the future. We invited two girls from Ulaanbaatar, but they are from countryside origin. Ichimuk is a writer doing children's books, and then the other girl is a designer. The reason inviting these two young people is because to know more about what young people think about this, why you have joined to that challenge on social media, which is called Responsible Nomad. What do you think about responsible nomads? We can't hear. The sound is not coming. Your microphone is not connected to the Zoom. Thank you. Now, did you participate in that Responsible Nomad Challenge? What do you think on that? No, we can hear only the anchor's mic, not their mic. Do you like fat, grease in animal meat? The reason I'm asking is usually people in countryside, in urban center, don't like to eat grease, fat in meat. And then I thought that if animal would eat the same type of grass, then the fat size will be increased. Another question, are you allergic? Yes. Then how it is connected to rangeland health?
Бэлчээр өөрийгөө одоо хамгаалах гэсэн оролдлого шүү дээ, тийм. Энд манай энэ бас сугарж яваа гэдэг оюутан залуу орсон байсан.
This is one participant of that challenge, Sokorcho, who is a university student. And he said that we were making a lot of statues, but preserving the rangeland would be more valuable because it will last for hundreds of years, the good pasture land. We have a system of doing diagnostics of rangeland. If we make an allegory of the rangeland with human body, then the same diagnostic methodology can be used in terms of for the rangeland. Do you know about that method of photo monitoring being done in more than 5,000 plots of land in the country that There are also experts from the meteorology agency, from the land administration are involved in that system of monitoring and diagnostics on rangeland. Preserving nature is important not only for livestock, but for the whole ecosystem. What do you think of that?
Нэг ч мэг өдөрчээр байсан. Oh. Баярлалаа. За баярлалаа гэж юм бэ. Чиний уриал гайгүй гоё байна. Бид нэр аригч юм уу, сүүч юм уу?
Thank you. Let us do the better practices for keeping our land to be healthy. Next video will show you the rangeland monitoring and diagnostics, how it is done.
The Swiss Development Corporation, SDC, joined hands with the herders, the National Herder Association, the SUMS and IMAX, the ministries, universities, and research centers to improve the rangeland management in Mongolia and to support, at the very end, the income of the herder families for a better future and a sustainable and responsible herding in the best of future generation. Your country is just so beautiful. The landscape is amazing, and the nomadic culture and history of Mongolia is extremely rich. For the Swiss, it was a privilege to work through the Green Gold project on a sustainable and responsible rangeland management system. As the head of SDC, I'm glad to share with you today our experience, our challenges and lessons learned we made during our journey. What you will see in the following videos over the next weeks is the result of a long process of over 70 years of work, of try and errors, up and downs, of many years of research and investigation. And it is the result of a systemic change on policy level. This process took, as you could imagine, a lot of time and energy. Everyone put his knowledge, his mind and idea on the table. So we learned together, and with a lot of ongoing commitment of everyone, we are today where we are. I would like to thank and to congratulate to everyone who made it possible. I do hope that with this support of SDC, we could make a contribution which will last over time and which will be taken up and further developed by you, by the women and men, by national and international organizations and the Mongolian government.
Швейцарын хөгжлийн агентлаг ногоон алт
STC Green Gold Animal Health Project made initiatives that were supported by relevant government agencies, universities who had the same intention of improving the rangeland diagnostics and assessment methodology. So the system of monitoring has been created, and then the database established, and then the rules and regulations, procedures about how to do the process has been provided by the project, as well as some financial assistance for doing the system to be operated sustainably. This system is to help us to know at what level degradation is happening, when, where, and then how much time will be needed for the recovery, rehabilitation of land. For strengthening the network of land, we need to do some theoretical background why we needed to do the system and how to do the system. So there were quite a lot of research and science work done. For instance, there were done assessment on the criteria and some specific features of all the ecozone land. 22 categories classification of land has been made, and for each of them we have now some peculiarities description made. And then we developed the handbook. The handbook would contain the models of Mongolian rangeland groups. Here you can see that we have the group of land which is considered, which can be of three shapes. Three health conditions can be for the same type of class of land, and then the degradation may happen. Along the red arrow, you can see the degradation, and along the green arrows, you can see the rehabilitation of the land, how it can be improved. And then also some key species have been identified for the illustration of the health of each of the type of grassland. The purpose of doing the monitoring. For the purpose of doing the monitoring, we have two main monitoring network. One is by the NAMM, the Ecosystem Long-Term Monitoring Network. For doing the monitoring of rangeland, we have been organizing at nationwide level some activities at BAG level and SUM level. At BAG level, we have 1,550 monitoring stations, posts, where our meteorology people will do the field monitoring. Also, the data will go to the IMAC level database, where the engineers would verify that information, and then all that information will come to the integrated database, which is at our meteorology agency. And based on that, we can do the forecast of the rangeland for the future. Another network is run by the government agency on land administration. It is the National Grazing Capacity Database. By 2020, we were able to have more than 5,000 plots, sites for doing the photo monitoring. And that is to give us opportunity to define the health of rangeland. This photo monitoring network would help our herders to know better about their land and to do some plan for the rehabilitation, recovery of land. Already, there are some good results of the work done by herders themselves in the areas where the land rehabilitation has been made. Such a photo monitoring network is extremely useful for herders for making some local decisions and taking some actions for improvement of local land. The use of agreements between the pasture user groups and the local government has been helpful for doing the rangeland planning to be done in most effective way. So you can see that assessment and diagnostics of rangeland has been helpful for making decisions, and then some actions are followed by that. For instance, protection of rangeland. The umbrella organization, Association of Rangeland Integrated Association, is an organization that will help the herders to do the better use of land by having joint efforts. When the number of livestock is increased, then the degradation of land will become very intensive. That would lead to the changes in the landscape, like the dry areas or areas with low productivity grass. Also, because of degradation of land, the per capita, per animal productivity has been decreased significantly. The reasons for overgrazing has been in Mongolia has been very much connected to the tragedy of commons concept. That concept came from 1830 by Foster Lloyd. That's when we have the public asset, then the people would use it without any care, because individual they would like to do some gain for them. But the result of that will be all people using the common land will all be suffering because of that. In our country, the livestock would belong to families, but the rangeland is a public asset. And then we see that without finding the main reason, we spend too many years about fighting against the outcome of our improper use of land. So we need to do better method of having adjustment of livestock size to the grazing capacity, and then to do the sustainable plan on the use of rangeland in order to prevent from the bad outcome. Under the project, we have been working together with the local herders and local authority about doing better organized use of rangeland. There are 4 main rules for better use of rangeland. One is not to increase the capacity of land by increased number of livestock. Second is to let the grass to rest and to keep it fresh, and then not to exhaust all the reserves on the land, and then to do the rotation of the grazeland when herders use the land for grazing. The Integrated Rangeland Association has been implementing many projects that are for the benefit of herders. At the beginning, we were not able to understand why it is that necessary, but later we realized that it is important to work in such an organized way. In our SUM, we have now better use of winter sites. In more than 170 SUMs, the pasture user groups have been working very actively in terms of doing the plan on the rangeland use to be implemented effectively. Also, those groups have been bringing to the attention of others their concerns. They have been now raising their voice to the national level, international level, and that gave them opportunity to attract some attention and funding from others for improvement of the rangeland. The healthy rangeland would mean that the livestock will be healthier. And then Mongolian livestock has some adaptive capacity to the ecosystem peculiarities of Mongolian weather and Mongolian climate. And herders are people who have been continuously bringing to the new generation the resilient capacity of nomads to overcome the challenges of the climate and nature. So nomads, animal husbandry practice is the precious asset not only of Mongolia but of the whole world. So you can see that the responsible nomads program can be helpful for making Mongolian herders to benefit from better access to international markets through the traceability system. The animal originated products, especially meat export, need to be increased in our country. One reason why we're not successful is because the veterinary health of Mongolian animal to be certified at the level of the importing country. The veterinary organization is to help herders to get the certification, validation of the animal health of their livestock. And now we need to create better system for that. So the traceability system for veterinary health would mean that the end user of the product will be knowledgeable about where the raw material came, through what stages, from how the transportation was done, etc. This is a long journey which starts from the herding family side. Having the certificate that the animal is 100% healthy would give herders better opportunity for selling their livestock at better price. This is the record book about vaccination of animal, what vaccines were made, and then vaccines are done at some schedule for animal. The theft of animal has been a crime which has been decreased by more than 50% this year. This is because the traceability system has been helpful for reducing animal theft. The certificates, 55,000 certificates were issued. And then for improving the reserved for improving the rangeland health, herders now know better. And then for making the better income from livestock, what should we do? We would like to develop some niche products for international markets to come from Mongolia. So we did some experiments piloting about what products could be of better demand from Mongolia. And then also we have been using some IT technology, the blockchain technology with barcodes for Mongolia originated livestock products. And that barcode would certify that the rangeland has been healthy. And then another line in the barcode would show that the animal was from the family of herder who was following the responsible nomad rules. So the use of digital technology would give the consumers the knowledge and the information about what is behind that product. In international market, the There are some products which they label made in Mongolia, but people, it is difficult to believe in whether it is made in Mongolia or not. But our QR code will give the assurance that the product can come would come from the Mongolian herders family. By scanning the barcode, you can even see the photo of the herder from whose farm the meat of the animal has arrived to the consumer. Each herder was given the unique ID number. Healthy rangeland will make the animal healthy. Animal that is healthy will give animal food products, and then herder will have better income out of that. Swiss Development Agency Green Gold project helped with the establishment of the system of traceability that would certify the unique feature of Mongolian livestock and increase the competitiveness of Mongolian animal husbandry internationally. The responsible nomad traceability system consists of 6 parts. One is about the rangeland conditions, and then the veterinary health, and then the comfort of animals, then the product quality, etc. The responsible nomad mobile application has been made, RMTS. This is the traceability system of raw materials. With this application, you can do the tracing of the wool, cashmere, leather, meat, the milk, and dairy products. This application can be downloaded to the mobile phones of herders, and then for the origin of their products coming to the international market, they will be able to do the tracing. And then this access to such markets would give better income to herders. And then for Mongolian livestock, the main resource for doing the products would be rangeland. Rangeland health would make improvements in that area. And then also the healthy rangeland criteria can be applied for that purpose. For instance, whether on that land there has been the sustainable use of rangeland plan is implemented, whether in the place the endemic plant composition is enough. Also, whether in that place the animal is in comfort situation. In terms of what can be considered as a healthy animal, we can see that it is a place where veterinary checkup is done on time. Also, the veterinary immunization program is implemented on time. And then there is a book kept by herding families about the animal health conditions. And also in this veterinary integrated system, we can see all important details about the health of animal. Traceability system is to allow us to know whether animal is kept in the nomadic rangeland with regular move, whether they have the good quality sheds and shelters, also whether animal collection of the raw materials from animal is done in comfortable way, not making the animal suffer. These are important criteria that have been regarded as useful by international consumers. You know the example that people are refusing wearing the coat made of mink and other fur animal because the way of treating such animal is not humane. So we need to think about this preference by consumers. And then also the members of the association of pasture user groups need to follow some good standards and rules. And so this RMTS mobile application system would serve for the benefits for herders, for downstream processors, and for consumers as well. The responsible nomads supposed to have a healthy animal, and for that purpose, we have been implementing the law on veterinary health. In 1931, in Mongolia, we made the first veterinary rule. There were done amendments to that veterinary rule 8 times. And then in 1993, there was adopted a law on veterinary health. There are, of course, some other aspects that were not included in that law. So there was a need to do the new veterinary health law. With the increase of the animal originated products, there was a need to follow some good practices and apply the requirements by the importing countries, the countries receiving Mongolian products. Between 2012-2016, there was animal health project of SDC, and then the Green Gold project also has been helpful for making the ministry to do some improvements in the legislative arena. So the law on veterinary health was adopted successfully. And then we can think about the better application of the new veterinary law, because it will enable Mongolia originated products to meet the requirements of the World Trade Organization and of the countries whose markets would be quite attractive for Mongolian herders. The good thing with the new law is that we now have better system of responses in case of veterinary diseases. And this is the main advantage of this law. Approval of this new veterinary law would help us also to do better planning about our reactions towards the infectious disease outbreak and other cases of animal health. Based on the information available, we can do better plan. All herders would benefit from the improvement of the animal health. In the past, there were some difficulties with the lack of some regulation, but now with the new law, we have a good system of tracking. We have the easier way to access international market. For competitiveness of Mongolia's product of international market, we need to use the comparative advantage of Mongolian products. We have wool, cashmere, meat, and milk produced by using traditional nomadic way of rangeland management and animal husbandry, which can be considered as comparative advantage. And that would make Mongolian products to be of better quality and be natural and ecological. And then one of the main way of influencing on the improvement in the situation of having is the proper law on veterinary health and the proper institutionalization of the veterinary services. For that purpose, we have been closely working with relevant institutions, including the pasture user groups, about the veterinary health better system. Okay, one advantage of having the herders to work together with each other closely is the opportunity of establishing the credit unions, savings and credit cooperatives of herders. There were subsequent years of harsh winter that led to the problem with the lack of money by herders. And since that time, people understood that there is supposed to be made some savings that can be used in harsh time, and Green Gold Project supported that initiative by herders. In Mongolia, we have some saying that the neighbors can have the same life and do something in more collective way for increasing the benefit of their joint work. And so the way of establishing such a revolving fund, the credit and saving cooperative is one of the good illustration how people, herders, can be helpful to each other. And then herders had some revolving fund established first, but the money got exhausted from that fund. And later, and we have seen that herders wanted to to do recovery of their fund, and then to make it serve as a institutionalized cooperative of credit and savings. They say that herders say that in some cases in the future we may need to have access to money loan. In this case, it is better to have such a credit cooperative. And since that time, there have been a lot of improvements in that area. In 2017, some of those revolving funds have got advanced to the level of cooperatives, credit and savings cooperatives. Such cooperatives are very close to herders to their needs. Since 2008, the revolving funds got established. The idea is simple, that for initial seed funding, herder family can contribute 25,000 or 50,000. And then there was the matching fund created by the matching contribution from the Green Gold Project. And then this initiative has further been grown and expanded, and now the herders cooperatives have contributions by all herding families, and then establishment of such cooperative is to increase the savings of herders. Also, it is to help them to have access to loans in case of necessity. The savings in cooperatives, savings and credit cooperatives, international best practices need to be localized in our context. In Europe, in Asia, there have been hundreds of years of experience of such unions, savings and credit unions. And so in our country, we can develop the suitable system. Usually, in terms of the financial services, banks are suitable for companies who have bigger demands for money, but for herders, such cooperatives are useful. The cooperatives have been good also for developing the suitable products that will go through the traceability system to international market. And then we have the standards adopted. Standards are to make sure that the product is made in Mongolia. STC Green Gold Animal Health Project helped us with development of such results, and we need to continue such outcome. This is made of yak wool. And if you scan the QR code, it is possible to know from what herding family the raw material came from. But now you see, in the past that yak wool was not of demand, was not processed at all. But now it has become a product to go to international market. This is also the ball made of sheep wool. Also, these are products from the STC project initiative, and this is just an illustration of the opportunities for herders. Yes, we are to support the local producers. We are living in pandemic time, and for addressing that problem, we have been prioritizing doing vaccination. Next, our priority is recovery of economy, which is to make the products to go smoothly to international markets. And then we understand that supporting veterinary health in the country, we can make sure that the products locally produced will be of better demand. Also, we understand that all the joint efforts would make us to do some improvements in that area. So you have seen what herders have been doing in a more organized way. Also, you have seen what products are being developed by herders. Now you can see what is done for certification and verification of the veterinary health and animal products. In our SUM, we have been implementing Green Gold project for 4 years. The project Green Gold and Animal Health has helped us with having this building facility established on veterinary service. The funding for the veterinary service unit has come from the project and also from the local budget. It is the building that was made by using 38 million tugruk, and then the veterinary center is connected to the electricity grid. In this veterinary center, there are the activities going on by the government connected veterinary units, also by private veterinary doctors, also by NGOs. This will be the integrated place for providing services. Also, in the same yard, there are some places where services can be organized for the herders. We have a plan to increase the services at such facility. In Mongolia, we have problems like tuberculosis and other zoonotic diseases, brucellosis. There's a quite big challenge. And then based on what we have, based on this, we will do some further activities on the improvement of our veterinary health activities. For instance, in Urhanga, we would like to have a free of brucellosis zone. And then the project helped with having such an integrated veterinary service organized in a better way. Also, we are to do some better activities for promoting tourists in the country, especially in terms of veterinary health for yak. We can do some more work because there are a lot of good resources for that. And then for making the free zone from diseases, we can choose the proper locations and take some actions. When there is no brucellosis in our area, we can have some improvements in our livestock animal husbandry. Also, when there is no brucellosis among animal, the human health conditions are improved. In recent years, we have no brucellosis in our swamp, and that advantage of being free from that disease can be further utilized. And so with the Green Gold project, we made some diagnostics on yak and other cattle and verified that they are healthy. Also, we did training for the herders of all our swamps. The project has been helping us with development of many activities for veterinary health improvement. When there is no such a problem with livestock health, then people would buy the products in better quantity. In the future, we are planning to do some further activities connected to the veterinary health improvement. In our swamp, when we have some improved situation with the animal health, we understand that the number of tourists and then the number of those who would like the products from the swamp will be increased in the future. Our swamp called Batultsisum, and we got a certificate of being the swamp without brucellosis. And this is very good for us because our location is close to the waterfall, and we expect that when we have such certificate, those who would like to buy products from our place will be increased. I'd like to wish success to the project. And then for implementing this project, we have been benefiting a lot. There have been a lot of useful activities jointly organized. Very grateful to the project. Herders were able to raise their voices and make their voices to be heard by others through their associations. When we shifted to market economy, we had a challenge that herders are not organized well, and then the herders now have been, and as being the member of the pasture user groups, have been able to do some planning on the use of rangeland. Also, they can benefit from the joint activities. Usually, in the past, there was some land use plan done by the local government only, but not by herders. But nowadays, when herders are members of the pasture user groups, they can do the better plan and be involved in the government activities. And then when they have the plan which enabled them to make the winter places to stay protected during summertime. Also, having such a plan would make herders to do regular movements, and then to do some savings fund established, which was just a revolving fund at the beginning, but now it is a cooperative for savings and credit. And then the cooperatives were helpful for making herders to improve their income. And then pasture user groups at local level have become members of the IMAC level association and the Integrated National Association. Herders, with the implementation of the project, have been getting a lot of insights about how to improve their income. Once I had a difficult time when my grandchild was supposed to go to surgery and there was a need for money, and then I decided to refer to the pasture user group to which I belong to. So I asked them to help me with money, and they said okay. And then when I came to UB, the money she was wired to my bank account, and the child was able to receive the treatment on time. So you see that when herders are in such an organized way establish such cooperatives, that was a useful approach. Becoming a member of cooperative is very encouraging because it is possible to sit together and to exchange some good practices and learn from others. In the past, we were not collecting any of the yak wool, but now we collect the wool, and then we also get some income for that product. During the 13 years of the implementation of the project, we have some good collaboration of the stakeholders locally, the local land officer, the local veterinary service provider, and then the local pasture user association members. We all got together for doing the joint planning and for doing the veterinary services to be more accessible. And then when herders are working closely with the local government, it is easier to organize the forums, meetings like the forum of herding women, etc. And even after the project, we think that it is possible to continue the practices that we have established under the project. We have a Gobi Risk Fund established in our SUM, which is to protect from some disaster and from other risks. Into that risk fund, we have been collecting 52 grig per animal. And then also there was a matching fund provided by the Green Gold Project, also from the local development fund of the government, another 5 million. So we have 11 million tugrik in that risk fund. And then in 2019, we spent 1 million tugrik from that fund on the activity like reducing the number of mice on the field. So it was very useful activity funded by this risk fund. By being organized in a group, we were able to cooperate with some other international organizations. We did one project proposal for protecting the local spring, and then from another international organization, we got funding. Environmental Conservation Agency, we got funding for doing that project. And then being organized in such a way was helpful for us to do the project successfully implemented. That organization said us that they rely on us because we have such a good way of getting organized. We, at our user group meetings, discuss some pressing issues, and then also we help each other, the vulnerable group, vulnerable families. With the NGO Green Gold, we have been organizing, we have been developing some documents like the regulation document at some level about the use of rangeland, and that regulation about connecting some fees and putting them into the risk fund was very useful. At the end of the year, we were left with some money that can be utilized further for improvement of the rangeland. Also, such a fund, revolving fund, was useful for having access to hay at cheaper, affordable price. Herders now have more access to loans, and they have savings, and they can improve their income. We have a revolving fund, and that is the mechanism of increasing our wealth on the basis of trust. And this fund has now become advanced to the level of savings and credit cooperative. In the past, there were some negative experiences of credit unions that were not fair and honest. But in our case, we were able to do the credit and savings cooperative, which is based on the genuine involvement of herders themselves. And then there were organized some more training activities in order to make the members of the cooperatives to know better about how to use this mechanism. Now, 60 families have joined to the cooperative. We started our cooperative with just 2 million tugrik, but now we have more than 300 million tugrik fund in our cooperative. If we compare the 2018-19 situation with the previous years, we see that there were a lot of improvements. Also, the local budget has been improving when the income of herders would be increasing. We had some difficulty with the access to loan before when we had no such a cooperative. Then I learned about the existence of such a cooperative and then became the member of the cooperative. And after that, I had an opportunity of accessing to 5 million tugrik loan. That money has been used on improving my income from dairy products. I used to only get a loan from the fund, but now I have already some savings in that cooperative. I have been making the traditional costume, and having access to credit helped me to buy the raw materials on time. And then when I got some income, I put into the savings. At our cooperative, we have been also discussing about how to use the available money for improving the condition of the rangeland And then we established one separate fund, which is called Our Legacy, and that fund money is used for improving rangeland. Our children have now some savings account opened at the cooperative. That was a very useful product, innovative product. And this is, and then we put money into our fund. We also use some proceedings, the income from the fund for celebrating Elderly People's Day and for other occasions. At some level, we have quite useful cooperatives of herders, and then herders have been benefiting a lot by being the member of the cooperatives, because they have access to loan, to money in easy way. And then when we at once there was a need to spend money on travel cost for our people to go to training, and then now we have this cooperative with quite increased fund that enabled us to do some activities. Our initial money has increased 100 times. Our fund our cooperative is also helpful for people who are doing some business. More than 10 jobs were created by the people who were doing business by using the money from the cooperative. I'm very grateful to the local government and to local businesses who have been helping herders in improving their income. You have seen from the videos what herders would think about cooperatives and about the groups. And then if you visit the rural families, you can learn more stories about what they think about the activities of the project. The STC project has been given a lot of appreciation by herders, and we can see some stories of appreciation. I have been doing as a herder for 30 years. When we are to do the control of pests, when we are to dig some new wells, there is a need to spend money from our fund. So we have a rule for the use of the fund money, on what designation the money can be spent. The first work done by that joint fund money was to reduce the number of rodents, of mice on the pasture land, and herders themselves were doing this work for 3 days. 53 herders participated in that process of controlling pests, and they were really happy. They were happy because the money spent by herders and also joint efforts by herders were used for very useful purposes. We have no any conflicts, no any problems in terms of on what purposes to use our fund money. It is easy to reach consensus about on what to use the money, like buying money, by buying with that money some additional hay in harsh winter time, etc. And then also in our rule, we have some methods about how each family can benefit from the hay purchased by the fund money. So it was very useful and practical approach for joining together our funds. Our SUM was the first one to develop the good rule for the operation of our risk fund, on what money, on what purposes it can be used, etc. Also, we have some good practice of establishing at bug level some warehouses for hay and fodder crops. And then if the weather conditions are not good, then herders can get the hay fodder from that warehouse. Also, the Green Gold helped us with some matching fund made to the risk fund. And herders were very much appreciating the assistance given by the project. Herders know well about on what purposes the money has been used, like doing the water points, improving the animal sheds and shelters, etc. The project has been implementing a lot of activities that are really practically helpful for herders, for improvement of the conditions in which they live and work. Gobialta IMAC has been cooperating with the STC for quite many years. We have been using the people of Switzerland money on Gobialta IMAC projects that were bringing a lot of useful results to the beneficiaries. A lot of development aid projects were implemented successfully. And myself, I was very much involved in the whole process. And so I would like express my sincere gratitude to the Swiss people, and also looking forward for further cooperation with Switzerland. One good thing was the implementation of the project activities that we became capable ourselves. Our capacity has been much improved through the technical support activities, and then also animal health related activities were really helpful for our local herders. Also, by improving our capacity, we can initiate and implement activities that were very much supported by our pasture user group members. Our pasture user group has been growing like a human being. People start from the childhood age and then become infant, toddler, and then adult. Now we are at the level of being adult already, because we can do some independent decisions on our own, and we can do some good things with our own strength. We have 3 bucks in our SUM, and then in all our places there are some good things with the proper use of the land use plans, and that was important contribution by the Green Gold project. Establishing such a pasture user groups was very helpful for the local government as well, because we were in agreement of using the land properly. So grateful to the project for such a support in organizational matters. Also, the local government would be always happy if there will be some continuation of the project activities.
Хөтөлбөр студиэс үргэлжилж байна. Одоо бид
Okay, we have been continuing. Now, let me invite Mr. Benoit Meyerbisch to get connected. Good morning, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for welcoming me here. Dear colleagues from the Mongolian government, dear partners, everybody, dear people from Mongolia, dear colleagues. 17 years of adventure and 5 management teams. It's not every day that we can have the pleasure, the responsibility, but also to some extent the sadness to close a project like the Green Gold and Animal Health project in Mongolia, one of the most well-known projects of Switzerland in Mongolia. Through both events of the Rangeland Forum of yesterday and today's official project closure, we have tried to embark you on our joint 17 years long journey through questions, methodological tools, impressive, impactful results, well summarized by our Swiss ambassador during the opening, and capitalization products. SDC hope that you not only enjoyed this journey, but also learned out of it, and that you will use all of this material for the benefit of Mongolia and its people. While the Green Gold and Animal Health project is now closing and our dedicated staff is being released of duty by the end of this month of September 2021, the journey is, however, by far not finished. We count on you to use and bring further the achievement of this project, which has reached numerous sustainable and long-lasting results that we have just seen before. Be sure that until its own phase out of Mongolia by summer 2024, the Swiss Agency for Development and Cooperation, SDC, will still stay engaged with some complementary actions to ensure a full capacity of the key aspects of the project. We will continue to monitor through indicators the results beyond our project's timing. We will stay at the disposal of the Mongolian state institutions and of all development partners and businesses to continue to share the lessons and results of the project and to combat any unnecessary duplications. because we all have the duty to respect such a long-lasting work which has produced everything needed to make a responsible management of rangelands, preserving the environment, and producing the financial means needed for so many Mongolian citizens. Let me conclude by addressing SDC's congratulations and thanks to all partners of the Green Gold and Animal Health Project, to all state institutions, starting with the Ministry of Food, Agriculture and Light Industries, the provincial and SUM authorities, the National Federation of Pasture User Groups and its members, the diverse NGOs and private businesses. All of you are the success of this project and will bear its fruits much further. SDC deep gratitude goes, of course, to SDC's dedicated Green Gold staff. And I hereby would like to mention Bayarma, Bulgama, Divanga, Telmen, Enkpat, Gerald Ott, Onon, all led by the expert hands and vision of Enki Amgalanselei, and all in coordination with SDC National Program Officer Baigalma Gongo. This adventure has been a lifetime adventure for you individually and for SDC as an institution. You can be proud of what you have achieved with the partners mentioned. SDC is proud of you, and I am proud of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So we have heard from the Swiss Development Agency Deputy about the journey of 17 years, which is to be continued, need to be continued, and everything would depend now on us, how the journey will be continued. Congratulations and gratitude to all participants of this meeting and to the whole audience of our program. Thank you and goodbye.
Монгол орны бэлчээрийн үндэсний 4-р форум Нован алт малын эрүүл мэнд төслийн 17 жил. Хариуцлагатай нүүдэлчид бэлчээр нутгийн экосистемийн тэнцвэрт нэгдмэл байдлыг хамгаалахын төлөө ажиллаж байна.
Very good event. Thank you to everybody. Thank you to Mr. Timur, the Member of Parliament. Your words were very inspiring. You were very briefly describing all 17 years of our work. And then we got a lot of encouragement with your words about what we have done. And then for organizing today's event, we have done a lot of work by MNB team, collecting the interviews with herders, and then educated MN NGO, and also all people who supported our work should be thanked for their support. Although the project is now over, but I believe that through the Rangeland Association, through other NGOs, all the achievements and outcome will be further sustained for making Mongolian rangeland to be healthy and the livelihood of herders to be successful and effective. Thank you very much. Without all of you, we could not do this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Enki. As a STC representative, I also would like to thank the Mongolian parliamentary members of parliament and the government, MNB for this professional broadcasting. It was really impressive. And of course, the whole Green Gold team. You have been great, really. That was a very nice closing event, very interactive as well. I have been with you the whole day yesterday and also the whole morning today. And I could also check the virtual room and everything. So it was really great. So congrats, and you can be really proud of you, as I said before. So thanks a lot, man. It was really cool. Thank you.
Congratulations with this nice event to the team of the Green Gold project. Whatever it was done by the project should be further expanded and grow in the future. For that purpose, we all need to work together. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, goodbye, and to our team, see you on Monday. Yeah? Take good rest, celebrate well, bye-bye.